Reaper agents walk among us. Be careful. Geometric perfection. We must conceal our plans. Every step brings victory nearer. Desperate times call for innovative solutions. Did I miscalculate?
If you're working on your CPA exams and you're basically trying to memorize every single little detail from every single lesson, not only is that not necessary, but you actually might be hurting your chances of getting a passing score on test day. There is a much more effective way of learning what you need to know from each lesson.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Modern Power Rankings of August 2022. I decided to record these power rankings at the end of every month. We have done July last month, and in the comments you have wished that I show the decks that I talk about during my top 15. So I opened my Magic Online account with almost every card in the format, and we're going to do that. So instead of just talking about cards, I'm also going to show you a sample list. If you want to see exact cards of the sample list, please in the description click the written form of this video that will also link you to the various videos that I play with decks, because all I do is honestly just playing Modern these days. So I've played multiple leagues with every of these decks on my YouTube channel, and it's linked in the article, so check it out. Let's begin the top 15, shall we? Blue, White, Days Undoing, it's opening the top 15. You can call this Blue-White Control because at the end of the day, it is a Supreme Verdict deck. Last week, I have placed this deck as a Blue-White Control, but this week something different happened. Control Master Gabriel Nassif built this new list that instead of just being a classic Blue-White Control deck featuring Prismatic Ending, Solitude, Supreme Verdict, it's also playing a combo. The combo of Narset, Parter of the Veil, and Days Undoing. What this combo makes is that you draw 7 cards and your opponent draws 1. Your turn is going to end thanks to Days Undoing, but this is such a powerful play that it will be able to trump the matchup against 4-color, which is a very bad matchup, which is one of the reasons why Blue-White Control doesn't see as much play. It has a very good matchup against Blue-Red Murktide, but a very bad against 4-color Uranumnat. Can Days Undoing Narset make Control great again? Probably not. Probably Control will never really moved from the tier C. This is how I label them of Modern, but it's certainly a viable deck and one you can win with. Number 14, we have a combination of decks. They're both blue Urza Saga decks. They are Mono Blue Affinity. This is honestly my favorite version of Affinity. There's versions like the blue-white one, the one with Urza, Esper Sentinel, Ingenious Myth, but I think I prefer a more streamlined version called 8-Cast with 4-Thought Monitor, 4-Thought Cast, as well as Sojourner's Companion, Frogmite, honestly just powering out the Cranial Plating and Patchwork Automaton. This is the probably among the cheapest decks in the format, and I think it's capable of very good start. And once again, good matchup against Blue-Red Murktide, pretty bad matchup against combo decks. This deck is good against fair decks, but not that great against combo decks. Another deck that I decided to put together to this is Hardened Scales. This is a very, very hard deck. Sometimes you'll find kills out of nowhere as early as turn 3. The combination of Hardened Scale and the Ozolith makes this deck very, very strong and resilient to hate. I've played a league with this deck recently after so long, and I've just been so surprised by the power of Patchwork Automaton, not only in the Affinity deck, but also in this one, because you're able to pump all the counters from Ravager into it, and it doesn't die to Solitude. Of course, the Ravager does, but sometimes you can set up a thing where you put the counters on the Ozolith and then you move them on the Automaton, and that's very good. I really like Hardened Scales. Let's go to number 13, where we have Red Green Titan Shift. I had this deck higher last month. This month, actually, this deck won a very important event in Copenhagen, the LMS. Very good deck against 4-color. The best one you can get, the combination of Primeval Titan and Scapeshift to be lethal, as well as Wish that can dig for your Scapeshift in the sideboard. This deck also resilient to counterspell, since you can slowly build up some Valakuts and some lands and shoot your opponent down. Draw the Elysian Grove, very good. Another Scapeshift deck did well this weekend. It was a Teamer version with like Remand, Expressive Iteration, 4 Scapeshifts, so like old school, just old school Teamer Scapeshift. I think that every deck with Valakut is going to have a good time against 4-color, and having a good time against 4-color is where you're going to be, because 4-color is one of the best decks in the format. Another good deck against 4-color is indeed Burn. Burn is a solid deck. It didn't get much lately. It's always been like the same card, honestly. Just turn 1 Goblin Guide into turn 2 Idol, and you don't want to play Ragavan in this deck because your goal is to end your opponent life total, not to gain card advantage or mana advantage. Although it obviously has the classic weakness of just flooding out, despite 4 Sunbaked Canyon and 1 Fiery Islet, you're still very subtle to flood, as well as sometimes your opponent just does things that you can't deal with. You know, if you don't really have that many interaction, you can only just burn some creatures here and there. So if your opponent plays something like Amulet Titan or Living End, you can just don't have anything to do about them. So it's a deck that does its thing. If the opponent has a plan that's a little bit too slow, or something like, again, 4-color Hero Nomnath or Blue-White Control, then you might be able to get them.
With FanDuel Casinos, play it again. You can play your favorite casino games and get up to $1,000 back if you don't.
Next tier, these are the decks that I believe are slightly better than those ones. So number 11, this is actually a new entry. I didn't put it last month, and this is a Glimpse combo. I think like Glimpse combo has always been like just a pretty strong choice. Not as successful as the Team of Rhinos or the Living End, but still the power of this card is so good. Sometimes you just flip like Omnath lands, you get mana, you get like all the things. This is another Outburst plus Charlotte's Agent deck, but this list is different than the one we've seen, because this list plays 4 Cavern of Souls. So what you do with this deck, you're very able to bridge between the combo plan of just casting limbs with 5 or 6 permanents into play, especially the one got from Chancellor, Wave Sifter, Colony Garden, and the very good plan that we all know is a successful strategy against Blue-Red Murktide of just Endurance, Raisin Reef, Omnath, Fury, and the uncounterability of Cavern of Souls. So what you can do with this deck is that you can side out the combo for things like Mystical Dispute, Subtlety, and Dead Gone, and just have a fair plan against the counterspell deck. This is also a 60 card deck, so you're going to be able to see Omnath more often. I believe this deck is good. This is the list that's been going on for a while with good success, and it won challenges, it won RCQs, and I think it has the potential to be even better than Teamer Rhinos, which is the next deck on my list. Teamer Rhinos, another deck that's been like going on since day one of Modern Horizons 2. What you do is, once again, you exploit the Charlotte's Agent with Crushing Footfalls. This is the most consistent deck in the format. All you do is just turn 1 interaction, turn with like a Dead Gone or a Fury or a Force of Negation, 2 interaction with Fire Ice, Bone Crusher, and then turn 3 2 Rhinos. You have 8 of them. Your goal is the consistency. Sometimes, again, you can't really beat cards like Living End or, Teferi also might be very hard, but what you can do is certainly interact with your opponent creatures. You have a lot of removal spells. So if creature removal spells are good in the matchup, then Team of Rhinos is good. Next deck, we have another new entry. I wouldn't call it 100% a new entry because, well, I have put Rakdos and Jund in my past top 15. This time I decided to cut them both and replace them with Rakdos Scam. Where does the name come from? The name comes from the fact that having a turn 1 Grief plus Undying Malice, Feign Death, Maliki Rebirth, or Undying Evil is sort of a scam, because you're just discarding 2 of your opponent's best cards, as well as getting a 4/3, all of this on turn 1. It's not as impressive as it is with Ephemerate, but you're pairing, instead of white, you're pairing it red, so you have a card like Fury. And let me tell you, I played a lot of matches of testing Blue-Red Murktide against this deck, and turn 1 Fury 4/4, it's almost unbeatable for Blue-Red Murktide. Sure, you can annul the heat with Delirium, but it's not gonna happen soon. This combination of cards is very deadly if your deck doesn't have Solitude or just hard removal cheap. And this deck also has a mid-range plan of just heading a Thoughtseize, Dothi Voidwalker, Season Pyro. It also plays Blood Moon, which is your way to fight the D4 color URN matchup, which is a very bad matchup. Maybe not very bad matchup, since you can always go, Grief, Blink, but it's not a great one. It's not a great one. Although this deck, I think, is the best version of the John Den Rakdos. So if you're one of those players that really like to just play Liliana of the Veil, I think this is the deck for you in Modern. And this was number 9. Let's go to number 8, where another old school strategy. That's Grixis Shadow. Grixis Shadow, very similar to Blue-Red Murktide, and what it does is just interactions. You have 4 Ragavan, you have Channeler, you have Shredder, and of course you have Death Shadow. Your goal is to just deal yourself a lot of damage, interact your opponent with Run the Lock, Annul Heat, Fatal Push, and Terminate, and just get them dead with card advantage. You don't have Relurus, you have Giganta, much worse, but it's still a free card that you can often put into play. Against cards like the Blood Moon, which is surprisingly good against you, Giganta can become relevant because it lets you cast blue cards as well as just a 5/5 that you can easily cast against the Blood Moon. So I think Grixis Shadow lost some spots since last time. I think Blue-Red Murktide kind of consolidated as the best Ledger Shredder version, or the best Expressive Iteration version, but this is certainly a deck if you want to fight against Hammer Time in a better way. This is the deck. Let's now go on to number 7, also higher than last week. That is Temur Creativity. This deck was born as a good deck against 4-color Yorion, but just overall ended up being a very solid deck that we see so consistently in the top 8. There's even a weekend where this deck placed 5 copies in the top in the 2 top 8s of the weekend. So it's doing very well, and it's a very consistent deck. Again, it's one of those decks where all you have to do, it's a 1-card combo deck, similar to Scape Shift, similar to Vivian Combo. All you have to do is resolve this Indomitable Creativity card, and you're gonna get a huge value. By that I mean you're gonna get 1 or 2 or 3 Archon of Cruelty into play. It's so easy to have creatures in Modern. It's not like other formats. You have easily just fetch land plus Dwarven Mine. You build your mana base with only mountains, so it's like impossible. Like, I guess you can draw the Boseiju if you don't have lands, but it's almost impossible to now have mountains on, dwarf on turn 4, and then you're just gonna play Creativity. And the invention that Gibber Nassif did was he added Explore to this deck. So this deck is able to go off as early as turn 3. Turn 2 Explore, turn 3 fetch land Creativity, and many decks just will have a very hard time dealing with the Archon. This is another deck that plays Fable. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, very good in many formats. In Modern, I think it's probably where this card sees played the least, but still very good here, since you're able to both ramp up to your Archon as well as get rid of it, because sometimes this card in your hand is just a dead card. Let's go to the next tier, Tier A. Number 6 in the rank we have, where is it? Black-Grey Yawgmoth. Black-Grey Yawgmoth, not my favorite deck, I have to say. In fact, as you can see, it's the only deck I don't own the cards for. I've played it sometimes on my channel though, but it's a deck that requires a lot of experience, I believe. Similarly to Amulet Titan, Artist Chaos is one of those decks that you can play, but if you know exactly what you're doing, it's much better. It's much better. You have both Eldritch Evolution, Court of Calling, and of course Yawgmoth. So you have basically 12 copies of this card. Your goal is to play mana ramp like Burz, Ignoble Hierarch, Wall of Roots, and what's it called, the Court of Calling for Dryad Arbor, to put into play Yawgmoth and just make value with it. You have Grist as a way to answer a card like Murktide Regent, and you have a combo kill of a Droth Messenger Giraffe Messenger or Blood Artist paired with 1 or 2 undead creature, and Yawgmoth will kill your opponent. So this is both a aggro deck, combo deck, value deck, very hard to attack, just good deck overall. It places so many good results recently. Good matchup against Hammer Time is a nice place to be. This card is this card, if it's in play, even if your opponent kills it, sometimes it just makes you 2 or 3 cards if you have a card like Young Wolf or Stronger Gaze, so you can easily rebuild and play a new one the turn after. So strong deck. Sideboard, you have access to green, which has the best sideboard tool like Endurance, Force of Vigor, and Veil of Summer. As well as black that gives you access to Turak, because this deck has a pretty bad matchup against 4-color. So you need and Turak is one of the best card against 4-color. Let's now go on to deck number 5, which is Amulet Titan. I don't know what card I'm missing though. Oh, Droid Crazes. That's true, because this is the newest technology that I believe was Canister that popularized. It might be wrong. What happens is that this deck has historically been pretty bad against Blue-Red Murktide. Sure, you have Covenant of Souls to let your giant resolve, but still a combination of Dress Down, Subtlety, as well as a turn 1 Ragavan sometimes, the Blood Moon, which of course you do have Boseiju for, but it's just a lot of things that makes the matchup tough. And Droid Crazes plus Sakura Tribe Elder is one way you can fight the Dress Downs, because Droid Crazes is triggers on cast, so Dress Down doesn't do anything. And the counters, they remain because it enters the battlefield with counters. So I guess maybe it's not true. The Dress Down still kills this. Actually, I've never really seen this interaction, but you definitely draw the cards, and that's a very important thing. Another card that's very good against counter spells, removal spells, is Cultivator Colossus, because sometimes Primeval Titan may be a little bit too bad against Solitude, but Cultivator Colossus does give you value over and over. I've also seen versions with Scape Shift, playing bounce lands so that you can then like summon or spot for Cultivator Colossus, draw a lot of cards and go off that way. I think it's a little bit more too cute, but this Primeval Titan deck is definitely a menace. Very hard to master, but also just very hard to pilot in general. You can see making plenty of mistakes by starting by not paying the pact or playing a pact and leaving yourself dead to a removal spell. This is, again, a lot of hard things going on here. This is one of those modern decks that really rewards loyalty, and since it's a great deck. Number 4, we got Living End. Living End. It used to be number 1, then I put it in number 3. This deck is very strong. It's just fighting for the number 3 slot, in my opinion, with Hammer Time. They're both like excellent deck. They do one thing, they do it well. Cycle, Grief, Force of Negation, Living End. Most of the times you're dead. Very hard to lose after you've resolved the Living End. You gotta be a little bit unlucky with your with just not drawing as many cyclers. Number 3, we got Blue-White Hammer Time. At this point, I want to say that splashing blue is probably best. I mean, some people still have success with mono white, but we've seen how important is Spell Pierce. We've seen in the format, we've seen how important is having anti-cascade cards. White does give you protection cards. You have, of course, Giver of Runes, but also Blacksmith Skill, which is the other protection card. This deck can both grind well with cards like Reality Chip and Color Complete, as well as killing on turn 2 with an Ornithopter, a Sigarda's Aid, and 2 Colossus Hammer. Let's quickly go to number 2. It's a 4-color Yorion Omnath and Blue-Red Murktide. They really fight for the number 1 and 2 slot. I decided to put Blue-Red Murktide first, but the 4-color Elementals is now taking a... since Jerry Thompson popularized this version is now kind of over the places. It's Traverse the Ulvenwald combination with I think I've missed an Emrakul over here. Yes, I did. It's Traverse the Ulvenwald in combination with Mishra's Bubble and Unholy Heat, so you have that little Delirium package instead of playing Emrakul. Traverse the Ulvenwald is nice because you can also get a basic land. Getting a basic land is nice because this deck sometimes just just gets color screw, mana screw, dies to Blood Moon. So Traverse Lulava can fix that problem. You have both Abundant Growth and Traverse to get that basic land out of the way, as well as tutoring out that Emrakul in the mirror match. Emrakul goes out a lot, but against the mirror match, it's the best thing you can do. Unless you are playing Vivian combo, which is the best thing you can do in the mirror match. I believe this deck is the mirror breaker. Again, the combination of a Vivian plus any 3-drop into play wins you the game without interaction. You get a Felidar, you blink the Vivian, you get a Karmic Guide, you reanimate Felidar, blinks the Vivian, sacrifice Felidar, get Kiki-Jiki, copy Karmic Guide, reanimate Felidar, blink the Kiki-Jiki, infinite tokens, and you have a classic 4-color elemental show. Let's now quickly go to the first place, which is Blue-Red Murktide. This is the deck that I'm going to be playing at 4 Seasons in few weeks. It's a big modern event in Italy. I think it's the best deck. I really enjoy playing Lightning Bolt and Counterspell in this format, and I really enjoy playing Dragon's Rage Channeler. Some people cut this from their deck. I think this card is incredible. Of course, it's bad against Endurance. Of course, it's bad against the Licensors. Sometimes, you know, if your opponent has Leyline or Rest in Peace, it's bad. But most of the times against most modern decks, this card will be outstanding. Will be a 1-mana 33 that fixes your draw, that fills the graveyard for Murktide. I don't want to play less than 4. I can see cutting 1 Shredder for 1 Brazen Borer if you're in the market, but Shredder helps you against said cards. So helps you against the Endurance, helps you against the Leyline and things like that. It gives the deck an additional angle. It doesn't suffer Graveyard 8, but it also just a strong blue deck where you can go turn to Shredder, bubble, you know, discard a second counter spell and just have a nice plan with a 2/4 on turn 2. This deck is great. Not much to say about it. You can play Magus of the Moon, 1 Blood Moon. You can play additional copies of Graveyard 8 if you fear Living End, but I decided to go for more Flusterstorm. I really like Flusterstorm in this deck. I've also grown up to love Subtlety. Subtlety has been a card that I am in love with against various decks like Yawgmoth, Amulet, the 4-color deck. Again, oftentimes you cut Channelers against those Endurance deck, and you want to replace them with threats that are also good, like Subtlety. Alright, I think I've speedrun. Channel Fireball told me to do it 15 minutes. I'm on 21. I hope Channel Fireball will be okay with this video lasting a little bit too long. I just have so many things to say about Modern. If you have any questions, drop it in the channel, drop it in the comments. I read them all and I take notes. So thank you so much. I'll see you next month with the new Modern power rankings update, and we're gonna have Dominaria card, so that's gonna be exciting. Bye.